And also,
we said over here on Shabbat Tsfat Bolok, but in Chutz Ha'Oretz, in that year, they were like ahead of us. They were like a week ahead of what we are now. So this particular Shabbos, when the Rebbe said this Sikha was Shiva also, it was already new time. And that's what it is this year also. Next week is Shiva also Batama, next Shabbos. So we don't fast, of course, on Shabbos. It's pushed off to Sunday. And so the Rebbe is going to talk now a whole quite a lengthy discussion of what does it mean when the timers falls out on Shabbat. And we push off the timers. So Sunday, what is the, as you might call it, the pneumatic story in such a case? How do we view the fact that the timers is dismissed till Shabbat, till Sunday? What's the end of it? That's number one. In order to understand that, quite a few of the points that the Rebbe is going to make during the Sikha are based on a posik and a Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. A posik is in Zechariah Hanovi, chapter 8, posik Yud Tes, and the Gemara is in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Ches. So what is that posik in Zechariah Hanovi is talking about a series of comforting nevuahs which Zechariah gave to the Jewish people who were at that time still in God's bubble, but preparing to come back to God's bubble into the situation of Bashem. And he tells them a number of things that if they want the Geula to really be effective and for it to be a lasting thing, then they have to keep certain general rules. And he talks about the Indian of loving and understanding one another and doing correct mishpat, one with the other, and giving a lot of stock and simple but very basic and sholem between each l'riyehu, all sorts of amazing basic values of that nature. And then he says to them that there are four tzoymes, but in the version of the scripture the word tzom also in modern Hebrew means a fast. So there are four tzoymes which at that time were active. Now Zechariah Novi, like I said, he was in the time between the destruction of the first temple and the building of the second temple. He was there also when the second temple was actually built. And he and Chagai and Malachi Hanovi, they were actually part of the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, that they took over all the rulings of Yiddishkeit after the Beit Sheni was rebuilt. So Zechariah Hanovi says that there are four fasts which are not here, even in this day. And he calls them the Tzom HaRaviyi, the Tzom HaChamishi, the Tzom HaShlishi, the Tzom HaShvi'i, and the Tzom HaSiri. So what does he mean by the Tzom HaRaviyi? He means Shiva Asaba Batamas, because if we count, which we do, after the Yetzias Mitzrayim, then the counting of the months begins from Nisan. Nisan is the birth month. So So the fourth month is Tamar. So when he says Tzom HaRavi'i, he's referring to Shavuos B'Tamar. When he says Tzom HaChamishi, he's referring to Tisha B'Av. And when he says Tzom HaShavi'i, he's referring to Tzom Gedalia. Because after the Churban Bayis Rishon, the Bavliim took the two main tribes that were in Yerushalayim, which were Yehuda and Benjamin. They took them into the Aseret HaShvatim had gone earlier, but he didn't know that he came and took them earlier. And so there was these two main tribes that were left, and they were taken into Golos. So he said, but what happened was that the king of Babel, he allowed there to be like a leading figure in charge of all the what you might call religious and other necessities of the Jewish people. And he was called Gedalia. His name was Gedalia ben Yehoiakim, was his name. And like all things, unfortunately, there was a machlokas about this. There were some people who didn't want to accept his rule because they said that he sat up with the kings of Babel, but it really was for the good of the Jewish people that he be in charge of what was left after the Golos in Babel of Eretz Yisrael. And he was actually a very good meaning, and he meant good, and he would have been a very good influence had he been able to carry out his task. But unfortunately, the people who were against him, they plotted up and they murdered him, or they had him killed. And that was on the day after Rosh Hashanah, which is Gimel Tishrei, and that's why we fast on that day. It's called Tzom Gedalia. And then Tzom HaSira is referring to Tevet, and that's a sort of a Tevet. Now if you examine all of those fasts have got to do principally with Bayis Rishon. Because Shavuos B'Tamar was the day that they split the wall and they began conquering or entering Yerushalayim, and that was in Bayis Rishon. And Tisha B'Av is also with Bayis Rishon. The amazing thing about it is that Bayis Sheni was also Nechav on Tisha B'Av, and the beginning of Tisha B'Av was in Bayis Rishon. And this whole thing of Tzom Gedalia is Shaitamki to Bayis Rishon. That's in the time of Yirmiyahu and Ovi. And then the Tzom HaSiri is also got to do with Bayis Rishon. That was when the king of Babel began the siege on, but it took several months around to the next year. On Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, that's when he actually split the wall. But during all those months, he was putting a siege on Jerusalem. So the Gemara comes along in Rosh Hashanah. Zechariah Novi, he says to the Jewish people, these four fasts, he said, they are going to be days of Sosa B'Simcha to Beis Yehuda, which means the main tribe that was in Golos. They're going to be Sosa B'Simcha. So there's two different ways you can take that. What does it mean when he says they're going to be Sosa B'Simcha? Maybe he means right now. What he means is that even though they're fast, but they're going to be Sosa B'Simcha. Maybe that would imply that the whole thing is only referring to the Geula from Babel into Bayis Sheni. Or maybe he meant like right on the spot. And amongst the great Meforshim, there are differing opinions. And the Matzah David and others, they say it's, Rashi doesn't comment about it. But they say it's referring to when Mashiach will come. However, the Gemara takes it very simple. And the Gemara comes along and says, you begin by saying that these are tzoyimah, they're fast, and you say they're going to be with Sosin Mullah, or Lusimah, how can that be? So the Gemara answers a very amazing answer. So the Gemara says, if there's going to be difficult times, what it calls Gezelos HaMalchus, then it's a tzom. If it's going to be good times, it's going to be shalom, then it'll be with Sosin Mullah or Lusimah. But if it's like in the middle, like a middle point, where there's no real gezerah, but nonetheless it's not really shalom, then if you want to fast, if people want to fast, then they'll fast. If they don't want to fast, they don't have to fast. Yeah. I said that's what's written in the Gemara. A very amazing piece of the Gemara, but it's a foolish Gemara in Masechta Rosh Hashanah. לא זוכרים אפילו לשולם. שלום, הולך שלום. So ask yourself the question, what does the Gemara mean that if there's no real peace, but there's no real gezerah, like a sort of a middle time, that if you want to give fast, if you don't want, you don't have to fast. What is that sort of referring to exactly? And what does it mean that there is peace, then it's Sosam Vasuma? You know, what does that mean? And what does it mean by saying when things are really tough, then you have to fast? Like Gezerah Samalchus, meaning exactly who is that Malchus, and who is Gezer, is also a little bit not clear in the Gemara. But that's important that we should know that, because the Rebbe is going to refer to that from several different angles in the Sikha, and we need to have that clear in our minds. Which means, and it's very interesting, that the 4 fasts that we fast, which are called Midivrei Kabbalah, they're from the Novi. It's called in the Lashon of the Gemara Midivrei Kabbalah. They were already in the time of Zechariah, in the time of Goddess Babel and everything. These terms were already known. They're very early fasts. You follow? Shivas of the Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, Tzom Gedalia, and Asar B'Teva. They're very early fasts. So when they come out on Shabbos, except for Asar B'Teva, which can never fall on Shabbos, the way we have it, and the Avodrom, he held that even if it could fall out on Shabbos, then Asar B'Teva would be different. We would fast on Shabbos. That's what he held. Like Yom Kippur. He holds that Asar B'Teva is very special. Fast all the time, but the other 3, if they come out on Shabbos, even Tisha B'Av, if they come out on Shabbos, then they're pushed off. So what the Rebbe is going to deal with here in this amazing Sikha, what's it mean that Shabbos puts off the fast? What is the inner significance of that point? So, Kasher Shiva also B'Tammuz Chal B'Shabbat. When, because that's how it was in that year. We're going to have that next week. But the Rebbe was on Pasha Bolok, but he had already Shiva also B'Tammuz. So he says Shiva also B'Tammuz Chal B'Shabbat. Azai Atzom Nidcha L'Mocharat Yom Rishon. Then the tzom is Nidcha L'Mocharat Yom Rishon. Be'inyan Zeh, he said, in that fact that we put off the song, literally we push it till Sunday, he said, Yeshnan Shtei Mashmoyes. There's 2 different types of ways of appreciating that, or significances of that we can suggest. He said, a Mashmoyes Pshuta. What is the simple Mashmoyes of that? And then he said, a Mashmoyes Apnimius, a more deeper inner Chassidish message. Why we put the tzom off to Sunday? What does that mean? What does that imply? So he said, in simple meaning, he said, a Shabbos Eina Meshana Upura Upoyera Be'inyan Al-Taines Atzmo. So he said, what it means is, if we go in simple terms, the Shabbos doesn't really affect the actual tainus and its actual self. Kalema, A'inan Abilti Rotzu, Shala Tainus, Nisha Batokve, Kabakol Shama, or Kabakol Shama. He said, we can say in a simple way that the unpleasant thing which happened on that fast remains the way it is. And everything remains the way it is, just because Shabbos is a day which Shabbos is very strict, Shabbos is midoraisa, and therefore we can't do unpleasant things on Shabbos, and therefore we put it off to another day, but we don't actually change the basic characteristic and the inner, what you might call makeup of the fast. We just say, listen, unpleasant things like that, don't fit in on Shabbos. And therefore, the unpleasant thing remains with its power that it had every year. But when it comes out on Shabbos, we don't keep it on that particular day, which is Shabbos. Given Shabbos, ein mokim le'inish ol tzomba, the time is mina Torah. The Torah has taught us and been geyser upon us that Shabbos has to be a happy day. And the Rebbe brings down inside the Sikha that there's also a famous Sifri, well, that's one of the famous Medrashim, but it teaches us that Shabbos is even a day of Simcha, because it's mashma in the Gemara and in most of the Medrashim that Shabbos is a day of Oinig, and Oinig or Simcha are two different inyanim, which means that you're not mechuyev to be dafki b'simcha on Shabbos. You have to enjoy Shabbos. You have to, but you don't have to necessarily do things which are indicatory of expressed simcha.
Purim is dafka simcha, not owning. Unlike Purim, which is dafka simcha but not owning. Purim's
got everything.
Purim's got everything.
Yeah. You name it, Purim's got it. We'll come to that visit. I don't know if we're going to get to it, but the Rebbe actually mentions Purim here in a certain context. Yeah. So, therefore, says the Rebbe, what happens here is that since Shabbos, Minha Torah, teaches that we're going to be Bo'inig and a fil of a simcha, according to the famous Sifri, then you can't keep a day like that and at the same time fast and remember a unpleasant thing. So therefore, Yevulochin, he miskayimah, v'shonazu b'yom shalomachar. Therefore, the fast and the unpleasant memory is kept the day after. That's the simple meaning. So the Rebbe said, Omnam ba'oimek yoyser. If we approach the whole thing a bit deeper, he said, kasher ataynis, chola b'yom ha'shabbat, harei ya'ud ha'shabbaisi yoyim ein mesaynim. He said, that very fact, that on that day we don't fast, yesh bo mishum remez. It has like an indication and a hint, what you might call a pointer to something, and an asinas koya. Now this is very important. The Rebbe is going to build on this point a lot as we go along. Remez and asinas koya. But a remez means like a thing, if we look carefully, we can see that it's hinting and leading us in that direction. But the word asinas koya indicates that this inner message which is occurring here gives us the power that we should be over and beyond the whole time. That we should be beyond the whole implication of what a time this is all about, which means that we're holding by the exact opposite of a timeless, which is the Geula. And there's something hidden inside Shabbos which brings out the Geula, and that automatically, as you might say, cancels deep inside this whole inyan of what a fast of the nature of Shivos and B'Tamaz represent. And therefore he says, Remez v'nasinas koyak to us, the bitur shel hatainis legamrei, to the hedikot, the cancelling out of the tainis altogether, shelo yisanu klal af lo yelamocharas. That there's a hint here and a giving of power that we will be able to reach a level where we'll be holding during Shabbos on such a level that we won't be shayir and we won't be involved anymore in the whole idea of what a tainus is. So according to that madrega that we're on Shabbos, yeah, it's not shay that we should fast the next day. But because we will come down from that madrega, and therefore we have to fast the next day. But the level you reach on Shabbos is that you're beyond the whole in of the time completely, as if it were that the next day you're not going to fast for Shabbat.
Then why do we fast that next day?
Huh?
Then why do we fast that next day?
Why you fast the next day? Because unfortunately you come down after Shabbat goes out. You come down from this madrega. Follow? And since you come down from that level, therefore you have to fast. So he said, "Ukapisha matzino v'nekei l'tisha b'av." So the Rebbe says we find a very amazing example of this in the Gemara. It's a Gemara Masechta Megillah. What's written over there? So the Rebbe says in reference to Tisha B'Av. Now we have to bear in mind that Tisha B'Av is the hardest of all these four fasts. Because on Tisha B'Av you have to fast both by night and by day. And there's 5 different things are forbidden and all sorts of inyanim, which are not necessarily the case in the other fasts. They're much easier. Nonetheless, we see by Tisha B'Av that when it comes out on Shabbat, Shasayva Rebbe, the Rebbe means Rebbe Yehuda Nossi, Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that he holds that Huyo v'nidcho yidochei. He holds that since it falls out on Shabbat, and Shabbat dismisses, then you don't fast, then you don't fast on Sunday either. That's what Rebbe holds. He holds that once you push the tardiness away, then you don't fast altogether. The Shabbos has the power to push the tardiness away altogether until next year. And so until next year there's plenty of time for Mashiach to come. Which means that we've gone up into a level where we're not really shy to the whole thing anymore. That's Rebbe. That's what Rebbe holds, and therefore he's just given the nitcha yidoche. And there are several other very interesting things in that Gemara over there, which indicate that Rebbe had a sort of a very interesting attitude to this whole meaning of the fast, particularly if they occur on Shabbat. Also upon him, ve'im kain kol shechein, how much more? If Rebbe holds that way, l'gabi Tisha B'Av, then kol shechein yet sheyesh lo yimakain v'negel yutom yudzayin b'tamid shehu kal yoter. So if Rebbe holds that way, then for sure we would hold that way to Shiva also b'tamid, because Shiva also b'tamid is easier than Tisha B'Av. Which means that if it came out on Shabbos, according to Rebbe, he wouldn't fast on Sunday. You follow? So we see that in the opinion of Rebbe, we see a very amazing, and that's according to Halacha. Rebbe is not talking, in some law or something. He's talking Halacha. And he says, given the nitche, yidoche, for that year upon him, means that the power of Shabbat to be reveal something about the whole relationship to our fast is very powerful. But it means that till we reach a level where we've gone up beyond the whole implication of the fast. And therefore we can't tell people to fast the next day, because that would involve, like you very rightfully noticed, that involves like a yerida. And Rebbe doesn't want to face that yerida. Rebbe says, no, that's not chayim. If we push on, even Tisha B'Av. V'chein hu, says the Rebbe, amnam, echad ha-Yehudim shel yosid lovei. He said that is taka, one of the promises or the foresights, of the yosid lovei, of the period after Moshiach. The Rambam, writes like this. At the end of Hilchos Tainis, the Rambam says, Kol ha-tzoyim ha'sailu asidin libotel liyemois Mashiach. Because in Hilchos Tainis, the Rambam's not talking about Yom Kippur. He's got a special chapter all the time, or a special section all the time about Yom Kippur. That's a separate thing. But all the other tzoyimais, he said, all of them are going to become botel when Mashiach will be here. V'lo yoid אלא שהם עשידים לי איז יומים טובים ימי סוסן ושמחה. In other words, that not only we're not going to fast on those days, that the actual fast will be bottled, but he says they're going to be Yomim Tovim and Moedim of Simcha Liyosid Lovim. And later on, the Rebbe is going to point out that we have to say, according to different calculations, that we have to say that they're going to be more than the other Yom Tovim. They're going to be a lot more than all the other Yom, because the Medrash tells us that all the other Yom Tovim, when Mashiach will come, they're going to be sort of like butter. Not butter completely, but they're going to be like a light that you light in the middle of the day. If you light a candle in the middle of the day, that's not all that tremendously there. But he said these Yom Tovim are even when Mashiach, they're going to be really, tremendous. And therefore the question of Purim comes up. So the question, because Purim is not going to be bottled. So what about Purim? So the Rebbe says that even compared to Purim, these days are going to be more. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah. So first of all, you could say they'll be bottled. Yeah, why do you have to say they're not only going to be bottled, but they're going to be Yom Tovim, and we're going to learn that they're going to be Yom Tovim even better than the other Yom Tovim? Well, that tends to indicate that we're changing the etzem nature of the fast, and we're revealing something in it which is tremendously essentially linked with the Geula. So that when the Geula comes, this is going to be in full expression. So that would tend to indicate that when we push off our tainas, because of Shabbos, and Shabbos is a day which is like the Geula. Shabbos has a whole trace of the Geula in it, and therefore the tainas reaches that level that it's going to reach when Mashiach will come. There's a certain trait, and therefore that's why Rebbe would say, you've already reached that level, you can't fast on Sunday. If you already reach that level, then you've come to the level of the Geula. You've reached, as it were, the level of the Geula on that particular Shabbos, and therefore you can't come back down. And so the question is, what's going to happen the next time around? And we have to assume by the next time around, the Geula will be here, be pastor. I keep shooting. That's what I was going to say a little bit later. Therefore he says, ולפי זה יש לומר שמעין עניין זה נעשה ביום התיינה שחל יהיה בשבת. That מעין, what it's going to be, ליוסד לובי, happens on Shabbat. שיהיה פה ביטל התיינס והפיכוס לשמחה בתיינה של יום השבת. And he's going to tell us that Yom HaShabbat is connected with the Geula, as is well known. The famous, Gemara, Maseta Tommy, where they talk about what the Kohanim were tested to find if they were real Kohanim or not, and they were passionate that it was okay. Then they used to say a shiur, to thank Hashem that they were proved to be Kohanim and they could serve the Beis Hamikdash. And so the last Gemara, right at the end of Masechet Tomid says, I'm sorry, not a Gemara, it's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah, it's not a Gemara. Right at the end of the Mishnah said that there were certain Kohanim that when they were proved that they were okay, they used to say Mizmor, shiur, L'yom HaShabbos, Shabbos hi u'menucha l'chai olamim. That they used to say that Shabbos, that the resting on Shabbos is like the everlasting life that's going to be after Chiyas HaMeis. That's what they used to say. So we see then that Shabbos has in itself a certain trace of what it's going to be like. And therefore, you fellows are not, you've never tasted the Polish ways of doing things. You guys are very, well, maybe he has, you guys are very hotline Chabadnikim, but the Polish and Litvish guys, that they sing Zmiros on Shabbat, and they have a song which says, Mi'ein Olam Haba Yom Shabbos Manucha. That the resting on Shabbat is like Me'ein. What Me'ein means, it partakes of Olam Haba, which means that hidden in Shabbos is this whole union of what it's going to be like after Tchias HaMeisim, I feel like. We see that the Shabbos is Mamish Me'ayin there, the Geulah. So if these tamers are all going to not be despoiled, but they're going to be turned into Yom Tov, that's what's going to be after Moshiach has come. So on Shabbos, that's also happening. But Pnimius, that is going on Shabbos. And that's why it isn't on Shabbos, a person feels completely different. And he's in another state already, because he's already like holding what it's going to be like after Mashiach will come. Therefore, since that's the case, since we're holding by the Gila of Shabbat, and Shabbos is pushing away the tainus, it's not just pushing it away, it's changing it in its very essence into what it's really going to be like in Olam Haba. Shalom Aleichem. So we see, a whole different. I see everybody's very calm, Remember in the old days, people used to fall off their chair. Here, everybody's very.
So fasting on Shabbos would be like saying it's like saying the Chartana on Shabbos.
You know what?
So holding by the Gula, Shabbos when there's a fast, but by Rebbe it would be like we say Atav Chartana on Shabbos.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear what you said, but you sounded as if you were right.
Atav Chartana on Shabbos when there's a fast.
Yeah. In other words, the Rebbe holds it so turns the tainus into what it really is, mitzvah pnimius, that it's a Yom Tov, mitzvah pnimius, that you can't go back down again. You have to stay with that, and therefore that means that your Sunday is another day also. It's another Sunday. So therefore the Rebbe says, Shechal Yeh b'Shabbos, where are we? ולפי זה יש להם שמעין עניין זה נעשה ביום התיינס וכל יהיה בשבת שיש בו ביטל התיינס ונot just ביטל והפיכוסו לשמחה ותיינו של שבת that the tainus becomes included and brought in to the etzem simcha of Shabbos itself, which is a simcha me'ein losid loveh. So therefore, since it's being losid loveh, it not only just makes the tainus, no longer a tainus, but it turns it into a Yom Tov, like it's going to be when Mashiach comes. So the Bira Inyan, what is the explanation? The truth of the matter is that Yom HaTainus K'Shala'atzmoi K'Ilo B'Toivei Shnei Inyonim. So the truth is that if we just examine the tainus on its own right now, not comparing the tainus to other things or putting the tainus into a framework of Shabbos, let's just examine the actual tainus itself. So the Rebbe says there's two inyonim, chiyuvi ushlili. There's one thing which is positive and what you might call very desirable, and there's one which is shlili, how do you call it, negating, like unpleasant. So he said, he said on its outer glance, if you look at it from the outside, then the fast is a undesirable thing because you have to afflict yourself. And so something which you have to afflict yourself, well, that is like a negative thing. And that's implying that inside the fast is something negative, and therefore you have to react in a way that you're also acting negatively and afflicting oneself is considered by the Torah a negative thing. But nonetheless, because of the sharpness of the unpleasant thing that happened on that day, the Torah obliges you to do something that in itself doesn't really feel as a normal and good thing. He said, Apa Pnimi Yusay. He said, that's in the Chitzonia. He said, however, B'Pnimiyat, if we examine the inner message, then he said, Hu Inyan Toreyu. Oh, it's a good thing. He said, of Koroshan Aposik, there's a posik which says, where's this posik? Also, I think it's in Yirmiyahu, where he says that if you fast, and you just fast, but you just don't really think what you're fasting about, you just sort of do an ordinary day. He said, Haim ze yom rotzen la Hashem, is this a day of auguriousness to Hashem? Asking a question, which implies from that if you keep the Shabbat the right way, and you do the right thing I'm sorry, not Shabbat, the Tainus, if you keep the Tainus the right way, then it's a day of auguriousness to Hashem. It's a very desirable day to Hashem. So then ask yourself the question, why is it very desirable to Hashem? I mean, we're afflicting ourselves. So why is it such a Yom Rotzen, Hashem? So he said, V'chak, he said, B'negel Tzom Yud Zayin B'Tom. He said also we find these two nuances in every fast and in his own particular way, every fast. So the same thing, but again to Shiva also B'Tamuz, Shinyone B'chitzini Yusay, who has Cholos Achum V'Agolah. This was when they broke the wall and they got through into Yerushalayim. So that's the beginning of the, what you might call the destruction of the temple and the whole Golah. Inyan Bilti Ratzui, that's a very unpleasant and undesirable thing. However, he said, oh no, Yachadim Zoy. However, together with that, Harei Kol Tachlisa Shalagola, we have to think, so there was a destruction of the temple and there was a Golah. So he said, what does the Eibishter have a Tachlis in Golah? What does the Eibishter have from sending Yidden where they don't really belong and leaving them there a period of time? Well, that's what we call Golas. What does the Eibishter, what does the Eibishter really have from now? No, at least somewhere a small group, yeah. So he said that, what is the thing that Kaviyova, Hashem has from that? So he said the tachlis of the whole Golas is to reach the Aliyah, Shalagula, Shatove, Aliyah. The whole purpose is to cause Yidden to correct what they've done, which have brought the Golas, and through that to arise and elevate themselves to a point where they'll be able to live the Geulah. They'll be ready for the Geulah. At the moment of the actual destruction and the moment of the actual being sent in Golah, there was a deep inner purpose that through these things would come and it would be possible the Emersa Aliyah that would eventually come. And that's why Hashem did the whole thing. In other words, he didn't send Eden into Golah so they should just sit in Golah. And then all of a sudden one day you'll decide, oh yeah, maybe I'll take them back out. That's not the idea. That when the very moment of the sending into Golah was a purpose in order to eventually bring them to the end of the Geulah. Which means that at the moment of the actual Churban, or the moment of the actual Dover Bilti Ratzui, there's already a deep hidden inner positivity in it. But its whole purpose is to bring to the Geulah. And for example, there's written a famous posik about Tisha B'Av. It's written that that's referring to the Eibishter came and he destroyed Ariel. Well, Ariel is the name for the Mizbeach in the base of Mikvah. And he did that at Almanas Livna says Ariel, and some other amazing things written in the pasuk. From that we see that when he destroyed the altar, the Mizbeach, was Almanas Livna. He destroyed it because he wanted eventually to, and he had in mind rebuilding it when he destroyed it. And so he kept on destroying it. Yeah, because he wants to bring the world to such a point that it'll be able to be ready to build Ariel. That's not working. Yes, sir. Ain't batteria? אולי אין מקום.
memory. הזיכרון, אין מקום.
אין מקום. טוב. זה משפיע על זה?
לא.
So therefore it comes out of here that it's a very amazing point, and it's a very deep point. You have to think very carefully about it. What the Rebbe's point is, that at the very moment that he destroyed, he had in mind to rebuild. In other words, it's brought down, for example, when I get to Shabbat, if you destroy something, then you can be chayav, or you can be potter. It's forbidden to do it, but you can be potter. But if you're just destroying just for the sake of destruction, then you potter. But if you're destroying in order to rebuild, then you're chayav. Which means that when you destroy, you're really building. So the same with the Eibusher, that when he brought about these inyonim, he was really putting this negativity into the world in order to prepare the Yidden and the world for a much incomparably higher state. So the great message of the Rebbe to our generation, and he's going to mention that later, the great message of the Rebbe is that we've already reached that point. That this was a preparation to reach such a point. At that point's already been. Well, you've been a little bit out of things. You've got to get yourself back in. As the Rebbe says on many occasions, that we're already holding by the completion of the Golas, and everything that was meant to achieve has been achieved. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said that we're at the how do you call it, the last parade, and we've already polished the buttons, and we're waiting for Melech Mashiach just to walk in. Which means that we've already finished the whole job. Yeah. That's the message of them. That's the message of the Rebbe. But we have to swim a bit further, which I don't know if we're going to swim that far enough, in order to get to where he says that. However, himself, he said, if we learn that way, then it follows that in every one of these fasts, there's like what actually happened, which is very saddening. But in that, there's really a beginning of the process which leads to the Geulah. And there's like a purpose and an inner kavanah hidden in the whole thing. Well, said the Rebbe, that's in von Tov, Varei Taklis, called over Hipnimiusai. What is the ultimate aim of a thing? That's its pnimius. That's what it really is. So he says, Nimtza. שהפנימיוס של יום זה הוא הכרונולוגי. The pnimius of any fast is really a Yom Gil. He said that the Rebbe says that whenever you do anything and you have in mind a certain aim that you're aiming at, whatever you do is really bottle and in and around that aim. And whatever you do in the meantime is all serving that aim. So therefore the Rebbe says, since the ultimate aim of all the things that happened, was to bring us to the end of the Geulah, and that means that everything that's happening in the meantime is governed by that. And that's really the And that's what he says, the tachlis. When you have a mind and ultimate aim, that's really your whole pneumius. That's what is making you tick. You're not really worried about all the other side things. You're really concerned about that. However, the pneumius are very disciplined. I'm sorry, the tachlis are very disciplined. So that means that every fast has got a good, there's a tachlis atoim inside every fast. And he said that's nirmas begematria sheloi, that Yud Zayin is begematria tohiv. Shiva also, but Talmud, Shiva also is begematria tohiv. Why? Because the whole inyan is inyan tohiv. Ukapi shenema begemara ala posik, and it's like it's brought down in the Gemara in reference to the posik. I'll have to go in a few minutes. Brought down in Gemara in reference to the posik. This is a posik in Zechariah that we quoted at the beginning of the class. Tzoim Horovi, Tzoim HaChamishi, and the other four fasts. Yiyu, L'Beis Yehuda, L'Sosa Nura, Simba. So the Gemara asked the question, at the beginning you said they're a tone, and at the end of the pasuk you say they're Sosa Nura Simba. So the Gemara learns it in a very simple way. The Navi was saying, they're going to be right now, they're going to be Sosa Nura Simba. So if they're a fast, how can they be Sosa Nura Simba? So he said, Mitzad Echad, Ahim Nikoim B'Shem Tom. One side you call them Tom. Umeidot B'Shem Shosan B'Simcha. That's the kasha of the Gemara. Ella, says the Gemara, B'Zman Sheyei Sholim. When the time is peace and everything's quiet, as you, Sosan Nura Simcha, they don't have to fast. On the contrary, they're not fast. He said, Ein Sholim. But if it's a very unsure situation, the Gemara actually uses the expression Gezeiah, Shalamalchus, then you have to fast. And then the Gemara says that there's a middle point where it's not that and not that, then it's dependent in the Ratzon, or with the Ratzon of the Bezin, but nonetheless it's dependent in the Ratzon of the Yid themselves. That's what the Gemara says. Vapirush Bezeh, says the Rebbe, Ukanal. This is what the Gemara really means. Shabazman HaGolas, well that's the Inyan Ein Sholem. How does it all fit in with those Mephoshim they learn, referring to Lotzi Tovei? And the Ramban would appear also learns that way. And therefore says the Rebbe, Ein Sholem, that means Golas. If you're in Golas, you're not holding by endless of peace in yourself. Because you're not in your right place, Golas means you don't really belong there. So therefore you can't ever really experience genuine peace in yourself. So he said, therefore, the whole time of the Golas until the Geula, we have to fast. Because we're like Ein Shalom. We don't have any peace. He said, Nira ha'ina chitoine shaliyam zeh. That indicates to us the outer aspect of this day. He said, Yeshahu Yom Tov. Either B'zman HaGeula, when it will come the time of the Geula, well, there will be a time of Sholem, Sholem, then he said, Yereh ha'inyan v'ateichen ha'pnimi shalayom, sosen v'simcha. In other words, at the emes of pnimius, it's going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. That is hidden, and it's there inside the time, in its very essence, the whole time. And like I said, the great chiddush of the Rebbe is that we've already, as it were, reached that point where we're ready to get into the Sosam. So he said, Lafi zeh muvan, v'negel leyom ha'tayna shechal b'Shabbat. If that's why the time is in its very, examining the time is just the way it is. It's got a inner pneumius which really is Sosam. So he said that when it occurs on Shabbos, Shemeach b'yom HaShabbos yom rotzen. Since the day of Shabbos is a tremendously augury day, v'ad shekosher yom ha'geula, until the Shabbos itself is connected with the geula. Somebody just called. Yeah, unfortunately I don't hear so. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, that's a Gemara in Masechet Tomid, well, the Mishnah rather, in Masechet Tomid, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, L'Yom Shekulei Shabbos, U'manucha L'chayei Elomim. That's the Inyan of Shabbos. Arei K'shechal Boi, Yom HaTainis, when a day like Shivos B'Tomas comes out, the Mudgish Boi Tavke Ha'ina Chiyuvi Shel HaTainis, Sheyizgala B'Geula, Sosen I'm taking me out, that's going to happen. Very, very soon, it's going to be Deva Gilin. Therefore, the Rebbe says that in a Shabbos where that comes out. So now the Rebbe is going to go and say that Im Kain, that means that instead of fasting, we eat, because Shabbos is the day we have to eat. And the Rebbe brings the Alter Rebbe, Paschins, and the Rambam, and they talk about on Shabbos, you have to eat big fish, not just ordinary fish. You have to have big fish. As they're written in the Alter Rebbe. And if you want to drink wine, you got to have, old wine. You have to yain mubusam. There's wines that they sort of smell beautifully also. When you taste them, they're very, very tasty. So you got to. So the Rebbe said, if there's a deep sneamus here where we're turning everything into tohu, that means that you have to eat more. You have to eat more on a day when the tainus comes out on Shabbos than what you would normally eat on Shabbos. That you got to add something in the achilah or shtiya to, as it will symbolize that deep pnimis which is turning. That's what the Rebbe says. Just a few lines for it. So listen, since I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes, I'm just going to give you a foresight about something the Rebbe says, a bit further down in the Sikha, and the Rebbe says that the closer we get to Moshiach, the more the Ike emphasis in everything is on positivity. Because when Moshiach will come, he's just full of positivity. Everything is going to be in the best possible ideal way, the good, positive aspect of everything. So that's why he's spoken so much in the Sikha about the inner aspect of all the tininess is really good. And he said, the nearer we get to Mashiach, the more you have to talk about that. And he said, when it comes out, now, just before Mashiach will come, a tinus on Shabbos, you have to emphasize not only that this is being, pushed off till Sunday, but you have to emphasize all the inner message, and you have to do it just like you have to eat a bit more in order to, he said, you've got to talk. Also, you got to announce and talk to the world. That's what the Rebbe does. But if I bring it, that there's something tremendously positive occurring here, and that's the union of preparing for the Gula. And he said that gets more, the closer we get to Mashiach, the more that becomes a necessity, adequate to talk about the positivity of every union. And then the Rebbe says, I said a few months ago, the people, it was on Pasha Mitzvah, the Rebbe said that people should learn in Yonim Shel Mashiach. They should learn in Yonim Torah, they should learn about Mashiach. So the Rebbe said that there are two ways that can also be interpreted. One way is that you learn about Mashiach to be, to remind yourself about Mashiach, to hope a bit more for Mashiach, to press your chavrusa, that's learning with him, that he should become a little bit more interested and involved. So the Rebbe said that's not what he means here, but this urging here, he said to learn in Yonim Mashiach, he said there's another way of learning is that you live in the matter, and you're learning it because you're living it over, and it's as it were a way of preparing yourself to actually be in the Gila of Mashiach. And he said the most amazing thing. He said you have to learn in a way that you're not just reminding yourself about good things and stirring yourself to hope and all those things, but you could actually live. It's almost as if he says that you got to live like Mashiach's era. Philip Roth, that's the ultimate message that he sort of works towards the end of the sefer. And from that we learn a very important thing. Since we always forbring a bit, so Chaim, I've got to get moving.
Okay.
If I promise my family I'm going to do it, I have to do it properly, but I'm going down to Bnei Brak for Shabbos. So anyway, what's it amazing? We see from this that we got to, and the nearer we get to Mashiach, the more we've got to be positive. And people want a yearning for positivity. You know, they don't want to just hear a nice word, you know, encouraging, you know. They want something, you know, levity that really means it. You know. So it said that you've got to be in Mashiach, you know, not just hoping, living, and all that stuff, but you've got to be in it. You've got to learn it as if you're experiencing it. That's what happened. Thursday night we'll bring a bit long, and next Thursday night basically will be Erev Shabbos in the town. So they keep all this prepared.
Which pushes off, just like you said. On the Shabbos, it pushes off, just like that.
And then there's one more point that everybody makes, and that is that once upon a time, people used to say that Tammuz was not a good month. Tammuz was the beginning of the 3 weeks, beginning Tammuz. So the Rebbe said that the Friedrich Rebbe, with his Masur, never changed all that. And Tammuz has become Friedrich again. Tammuz is not a negative month anymore. She wasn't the Tammuz. You faced Tammuz. She wasn't the Tammuz that changed its attitude, as it were. You've got to look at Shiva wasn't the Tammuz positively. Because of you based on you based on change all. You based Tammuz changed Tammuz into a positive. Changing the way to show you.
בעתיק שלו.
Therefore, you place Tammuz, that makes that we should look at Shiva of the Tammuz in a political way, much more than was in past generations.
Yeah.